Um, I come across this a lot because I do a lot of mentoring for interior designers, and it's exactly what you've just said. It's the designer starting out that doesn't know where to start, and then it's the designer like 3 to 5 years in and that's kind of the point where you've been doing it for long enough that you know how to work with clients, you know where to source products from, you know a bit about how to price your services. You've got a bit of a handle on business. But then you probably get to a point where it's too much and you probably start to need to hire someone.
Yeah.
And it's generally around that 3 to 5 year mark that you're looking to hire a junior or some admin assistants or, operations coordinators. And if you don't have everything documented, it, one, becomes a massive headache for you.
Yeah.
But then two, it becomes this overwhelming issue that you need to solve for that person. Otherwise, that person's set up to fail in the business when they come on and work for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. This week I am joined by Emma Blomfield. Hi Emma, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So I like to start all of my chats by finding out what you can see out your window today.
I can see blue skies and sunshine, but I can also see there's a bit of wind out there because it is freezing today.
I know. I'm really not. I hate winter. I'm not a winter person. I'm just like, oh. So I would love to hear about your business, how you've gotten to where you are today. And I also would love to know, did you always want to work for yourself?
No, I didn't. It's really funny. I never really had major career aspirations. I don't know why. I just never really thought about it too much when I was studying at uni. And then, I probably should start at the beginning of that. So I did a business degree. I actually never studied interior design.
Yeah.
So when I finished was right in the middle of the GFC. So there was absolutely no jobs anywhere. And I was working for Oriton at the time doing visual merchandising for their windows. And I absolutely loved the styling of all of the windows and the merchandising and the displays and obviously luxury handbags. Who doesn't love that? So I started looking for visual merchandising roles, which tied into marketing anyway, but it was more creative. And back then, Seek, this is showing how old I am, Seek was showing visual merchandising roles in with interior design roles. I think they're now segmented out. And so I kept seeing all these interior design jobs coming up and I was like, I reckon I could have a crack at that. And then sure enough, eventually after applying for enough of them, I got a lucky break with an interior designer who did residential design, and she had an online store. So I was loading products into her online store and choosing from all of the wholesale suppliers that we work with every single day of the week to curate the products that she was selling. Then from there, I went into property styling, did that for a bit, didn't really love it. And then I got poached by Rocket Internet, who had come out to start The Iconic and Zanui and HelloFresh and all of those big sites. And they were starting another one that was modelled on One Kings Lane, which is a US deals-based site.
Yeah.
So I ended up working there part-time because I'd started my business kind of in between this.
Yeah.
Just for some extra pocket money, because I was kind of just like, I've got a whole heap of friends that are moving out of their parents' homes into their first places. They're asking for advice and I can see that I could make some money from this. So I didn't really think about it beyond that. And then when Rocket Internet came and asked me to work for them, they said, could you be a buyer? Because we need people that know the wholesale furniture market in Australia. And I was like, what's a buyer?
Yeah.
And they explained to me what it was, and I was like, oh, I could totally do that.
Kind of what I do. Like, I just didn't know that that's what it was called.
I didn't know that it had a name. And so they said, look, we're a startup. We need you to start on Monday. It was Friday afternoon. I said, look, I've started my business, so I can only give you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because I've got meetings booked Thursday, Friday next week. And they were like, that's not a problem. Just come in, bring your own laptop. We'll sort you out on Monday. I stayed there using my own laptop for the next 5.5 years. And then eventually got made redundant because Catch of the Day bought us out. And so I took my redundancy money and just ran with it because I still had clients coming in for my day-to-day stuff. And so that's kind of how my business came about, because it was extra pocket money on the side, and now there's no way out of it. I have no other choice but to run a business because it's taken over everything.
It's amazing how you've kind of like almost fallen into it all, but then all of this experience that you've kind of built along the way as you kind of, you're kind of gathering bits of experience as you kind of go along, kind of has lent you to the business you've got today.
Exactly. It's all come full circle.
And so does that mean then that when it comes to the business side of your business, how have you learnt that? How did you know what to do?
Yeah, I think because I'd studied it for 4 years at university, that gave me a major advantage because I was already coming at it from a really business-minded position. So, and I really love that side of it. I will happily sit and look through spreadsheets and dissect every piece of data that I can get my hands on within the business, and regularly make the girls sit down and look at slides that I've put together that explain all of the data. So I don't know where I sit in terms of like left brain, right brain, because equally I'm obsessed with making things beautiful and walking into a really beautiful space, and that feeling of being in a beautiful space and knowing that you've kind of helped create that. But then I also love strategy and marketing and sales and networking and all of that as well.
Yeah. And it is interesting, that right brain split. I think I'm quite similar to you in that regard. Like I would say I'd like to think an even kind of mix kind of thing, but which is unusual. Kind of quite often people kind of fall on one side or the other.
Absolutely.
And so as your business has evolved, you have a lot of parts to it. You do kind of interior design and styling. You've done e-decorating. You've got books. How do you manage all of that all the time?
I have a team. I don't do it all myself. I definitely couldn't do it all myself, even if I wanted to. And I think that was something that I had to learn, was I do need to delegate because I can't do it all. And I get bored really easily. So I'm constantly bouncing from, and I'm the person that suffers from shiny object syndrome. There will be something over there that I'm like, ooh, let's go and explore that.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about the evolution of going from you by yourself to your team. So how big is your team now?
There's 5 of us, and it really happened out of necessity because I actually did my first hire when I was still working for the other business, and I was only 2 days a week on my own business, and I was really very like client focused in that, and there was a lot of admin. As we all know, in interior design, you're basically just running a logistics business. And I was like, oh my God, I just don't have time for ordering and invoicing and chasing deliveries and checking that the sofa's been dispatched and then telling the client the sofa's been dispatched and then dealing with it when the sofa turns up and it's wrong or it's damaged or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Holly, who works for me, she's worked for me for 9 years now, and she basically harassed me for a job. She contacted me probably for 3 times over the space of about 6 months, just asking, can I work for you? Can I work for you? And at the first I was like, I don't need any help. It's fine. And then it got to a point one day where she contacted me and I was like, you know what? You can do all the stuff I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so I gave her a list of all the things I didn't want to do. Most of it was admin. And she picked it up and ran with it. And she was incredible. So then we got to another point where it was like, I can't do all the design work anymore. I need some help with that. So, and then also other people have come to me and said, I really want to work with you. This is the skill set that I offer. So our marketing coordinator came to me doing exactly that. She put a pitch together, hired her. She's worked for me for 7 years. So if you want to work for me, send me a pitch.
And I think that's a really interesting take, because I think so often people think when they go to hire someone, they're going to hire someone that's like them because they'll get on with them and that's how they work and all that kind of stuff. And that's usually the worst person to hire. The best person to hire is the person who loves to do the bits that you hate. Like that's the perfect combo kind of thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And so how your team's a team of 5. That's quite a big team. How do you manage that from the day to day?
Yeah, it can be challenging because, I do have client-facing jobs that I still do as well. So I've got communications coming from clients, and you may have husband and wife.
Yep.
So you've got 2 per project. Then you've got the builder. Then I've got staff. And then I have all of the other things that I have to do to run a business. I've got bookkeepers asking me questions, accountants asking me questions, all sorts of different people, web developers, all of that,
Yep.
Graphics designers. So yeah, it's a lot. It is overwhelming sometimes, and sometimes I do have to work really long hours just to get things done. But at the same time, I do have a lot of flexibility in what I do and how I schedule things too. So sometimes it just becomes a juggle in terms of managing my calendar. I'm the worst person at just cramming as much as I possibly can into the day and then sitting there during the day going, why didn't you give yourself half an hour buffer between meetings?
Yeah.
But I also have come to realize it's been so long now that I've been running the business. I know the business so well now that I know what I can and can't achieve in a week.
Yeah.
I've also been really careful about structuring the days in the week as well.
Yeah.
So certain girls on the team work certain days.
Yeah.
Not everyone's full-time, and we have a mandatory Monday in the office. That's unless there's something that really can't be moved.
Yeah.
I generally try not to be leaving the office on a Monday, so the girls have my full attention. I get all of the bookkeeping, finances, banking, pay runs, all of that done on a Monday.
Yeah.
And that really sets me up for the week because I've got all of that out of the way.
Yeah.
And if I don't do my Monday like that, my whole week's off, and I feel really funny about it for the rest of the
It's
week.
really funny, isn't it? It's kind of like, so I am a massive time blocker. Like I have my calendar time blocked out kind of thing. Not to the point where it's like very prescriptive, but there's kind of like chunks of work that I kind of time block out. And it's amazing how calm I feel going, okay, I know I've got to get that done, but I know that I've got time set aside on Thursday to do it. So I'm okay kind of thing. And it is amazing when you set your week up like that kind of thing. You kind of go, okay, I know I've got everything covered. I've got it fitted into the jigsaw of the calendar kind of thing. It really does change your perspective on the week.
But do you stick to it? Because I'm really terrible at looking at it and going, I can move that. And I'll move it because such and such needs me to be on site, or someone's going to call me, or I need to be there for this meeting.
So it usually is a 3-week cycle. In that week 1, I really am on top of it and I stick to it like religiously. But then week 2, it kind of starts to fall apart because there'll be someone there'll be a meeting that gets slotted in or something. So then week 2, and then week 3, it's usually it looks nothing like what I've time blocked out. But then I get really anxious, and so then we start the cycle again because week 1, I'm like, right, that last week was a disaster, I'm now behind kind of thing, we'll get back to it kind of thing. So I have this 3-week cycle, which I'm really trying to work on, that it's just a bit more consistent.
Love it. Maybe I need to try that.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, so every 3 weeks it's an absolute disaster. But part of my problem is similar to you. I cram maybe a little bit too much into my weeks kind of thing. So if I kind of spread it, and so that's something that like I think I'm adjusting all the time is like, okay, actually it does take me a little bit longer to do that. So let's give myself more time so that then I'm not falling behind every week on it. And like I'm trying to get it to the point where I'm actually, it is easier to stick to because it's much more realistic kind of thing. And so something that I'm actually playing around with, which I've got to do, but I've been thinking about, is actually doing like a 2-week, like kind of having all the things I need to do, but doing it across 2 weeks kind of thing. So I kind of have this 2-week plan rather than just 1 week kind of thing. But
I read something about people that try and, or that I'm late to everything. Like I'm always 10 minutes late. I don't know what it is. It's a disease.
Yeah.
But then I read something that really resonated with me that said optimists generally think that they can fit more into the time frames that they can because they have that positive outlook. And that's so me. Like I'll look at something and be like, I've got loads of time to get there. And then I'll get there, I'm 10 minutes late and I'm stressing in the car going, why did you do that? You don't have that much time.
No, I'm a bit like that. I am constantly underestimating. No, I think everything will take me 15 minutes to get there. And I'm like, it doesn't take 15. You can't get anywhere in Sydney in 15 minutes.
25.
Exactly. So, I'm a bit guilty of that as well. So you've got a team of 5 and that's a lot of wages you need to pay. How do you manage your workflow across the multiple channels that you have to make sure that you don't have that stress of how am I going to pay people this week? Because that's often a thing that designers look at and go, I would love to expand my team because then I would be able to do this and this and this and grow the business. But I worry about being able to pay them every week.
Yeah, I mean, that does happen. We have multiple revenue streams. So if one thing drops off, we can pick up another one. Yeah. So I'm lucky in that sense that we have a range of different services that we offer. We obviously sell products as well. I've got the books. I do speaking. I do workshops. What else? We have commercial side of design. We have residential side of design. We have decorating. We have decorating for both. So generally, it kind of does work out. I guess also being in business for 13 years means that we do have the luxury of not having to pay for a lot of marketing because we have had success with clients in the past. Then, those clients come back, those clients tell other people about our services. We rank really well for Google with, years of SEO experience that I have. So, we're pretty lucky in that sense. And, it's definitely a juggle, but it's never, and some days it keeps me awake, but it's never got to a point where it's been completely unmanageable.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because like when you were listing out all of your revenue streams, I was like, that is so much to be keeping on top of. And, linking back to what we were talking about like the calendar, it can be hard enough. It can be hard enough as it is when you've just got clients kind of coming into your calendar and all of that entails. But to have like all of those different things and all of those different, almost, it's very different headspace that you need to be in to deal with those kind of things.
That's my dog. You can hear someone across. Do you want to start that? I'm just going to make him shut up. Come here, be quiet. The guy in the office next to me just turned up so he can hear someone out there and he wants to go and say hi. So, sorry.
That's all right.
You just ruined it. There you go. Be quiet. Sorry.
That's all right. I was just saying, so listening to you list out all of those revenue streams, I'm kind of like, wow, that is a lot to keep on top of. How do you manage that in terms of, do you kind of have seasons, I suppose, where you kind of deep into one and then you kind of like, take the foot off the pedal for that kind of thing? Like, how do you manage all of that going on? Because that's a really diverse business.
Yeah, and that's why you have to have different people working for you because, you've heard what we do. I can't do that all on my own. And you have to trust the people that work for you as well because they ultimately have to pick up some of the things that you can't do or you don't have time to do. And there's often things that come up that requires me to just drop everything and go and sort that problem out. And so then I have to send someone else in my place to do something else. So it's just having trust in the people that work for you. And I'm lucky in the sense that a lot of the girls that work for me have worked for me for a really long period of time. And so they totally get it. And, they see how hard I work and they get what we're trying to achieve. And so they're often the ones that are like, you physically can't do that.
It's quite good having someone who points that out.
Yeah, I know. And I'm the first person that will be like, no, it's fine. I can do it. And then they look at me and they're like, no, you've got to be over here. You've got to be over there. You've got to be doing this. Like, just give it to me.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I think that's such an important point around building trust in your team, and also getting to the point where if you do want to grow your business, you can't do everything. You have to at some point hand it over. But yeah, having the trust in the team is so important so that you feel confident when you do that.
And also having the right systems and processes set up. I'm a real stickler for following a system and a process, and I've documented every single last task that we do in the business. And anyone that starts working for us gets given this document, and they probably freak out when they see it. But there's no reason for anyone to ever come and ask me a question with anything to do with any of the software that we use, or following a process for getting proposals out or getting designs out to clients, because it's all been either filmed or written out step by step.
Yep.
And that was, that came about because we had one of the girls in the team had to suddenly leave work for a while because she had a parent who was sick. And so she was off work for a couple of months dealing with that. And she knew every single detail of her role very intimately. And I suddenly had to pick up, the whole team had to pick up what she was doing, and we had to hire someone to replace her. And that was when I was like, we haven't got all of this documented properly. And that was all in her head.
Yeah.
So that was a really big wake-up call to get everything written down.
Yeah. So systems and processes are the hill I will die on, because I think it really is the difference between a successful business and a business that just flounders along forever and does a slow die. Like, it really is. And people think, like, it's amazing the number of designers that I talk to who are like, no, like, I can see why it's kind of important, but it's the design quality, it's how good your designs are, and getting photographed and getting in magazines. And I'm like, nah, that's important, but it is not what makes a successful business.
No,
and it's
not at all.
Whatever success means to you, success will be different for every single person. But if you don't have strong systems and processes, your business is not going to last. That then leads people to go, well, I don't know where to start. Like, what do you even mean? Like, what is a system? What's a process? What is the advice you would give to someone who is going, okay, I'm starting my interior design business today? I suppose I've got two questions. What's the advice you would give to someone who's just starting? And what's the advice you would give to someone who's maybe 5 or 6 years into their business and doesn't have anything documented and is maybe thinking about taking on a team member, but one of the things that is holding them back is how overwhelming it feels to onboard that staff member, because everything is in their head.
Yeah. I come across this a lot because I do a lot of mentoring for interior designers, and it's exactly what you've just said. It's the designer starting out that doesn't know where to start, and then it's the designer like 3 to 5 years in and that's kind of the point where you've been doing it for long enough that you know how to work with clients, you know where to source products from, you know a bit about how to price your services, you've got a bit of a handle on business. But then you probably get to a point where it's too much and you probably start to need to hire someone.
Yeah.
And it's generally around that 3 to 5 year mark that you're looking to hire a junior or some admin assistants or, operations coordinators. And if you don't have everything documented, it, one, becomes a massive headache for you.
Yeah.
But then two, it becomes this overwhelming issue that you need to solve for that person. Otherwise, that person's set up to fail in the business when they come on and work for you.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's really important that, one, you release control.
Yes.
I'm guilty of not doing that, so I probably should also take my own advice. And two, just start documenting everything that you do. So I was doing that, and I just had a spreadsheet that just was another tab that was open on my computer, and as I was doing things in a week, I would sit and write out what it was that I was doing. And that also helped me shape a job description for someone to come on board and help out, because I just kept writing. I had 2 columns. I had like what Emma has to do and what someone else could do.
Yeah.
And, some people would argue there was a few things on the Emma must-do list that could have been on the list. But it really helped me understand what I'm good at and what I can outsource. And then it also helped me start framing, different sections. We also use a whole range of different softwares. So we have a proposal software system, we have a design software, we have a financial software, probably have other ones that I looked at our subscriptions the other day and I was like, our subscriptions almost equal our rent. Like that's where we're at. Yeah, a lot. And that's the case for a lot of businesses now. And I think AI is going to continue that. But yeah, it's interesting. With all of those software systems, there's obviously processes that come with each of those systems. So then we've got to slot into that the systems that we have and the processes that we follow for making sure that clients have a really streamlined experience when working with us.
Yeah.
And I'm really big on that. Like, that's the hill I will die on. Like, clients come to us and it's a well-oiled machine. And if it's not, it's a reflection on us for not making sure that they've had that positive experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ultimately that's, I would imagine, what all designers want their clients to have. But I do always find it surprising almost the thought gap between, well, I want my client to have this great experience, but yet if it's a shambles behind and you're constantly trying to work things out on the fly and all that kind of stuff, well, then the client's not going to have a great experience. So I think sometimes designers, it takes them a while to kind of bridge that gap around, well, this is what I want to happen, this is the work I need to do to get there.
Well, and also the spend that you sometimes need to do to get there. Like our software is not cheap, but it helps make that process really smooth for the clients. But in the beginning stages, there's no way that I could have afforded to pay for that software to make that happen.
And so I really liked what you said about how you almost just made it part of your workflow that you were documenting what you were doing as you were doing it. Because I think, one of the things that people are like is I don't know where to start and it just feels like the biggest task ever and it's too hard, I'm going to stick my head in the sand about it. So I think that's a really important part for designers to remember. It's I'm always pick one thing and do it and then move on to the next one and do it. It's one thing at a time. It's not this, let's completely upend the business and change everything and do pick something. And I usually say, pick the thing that you hate doing the most, or every single time you do it, you're like, oh God, why do I have to do this? Or the thing that you procrastinate around the most. But yeah, and then I suppose the follow on from that is, as you said, you talk to a lot of designers about this. What is one or two things that you've seen designers do who are really successful in converting, in changing their business and processes and putting them into practice?
Yeah, I am really fussy about the types of people that I'll take on for our mentor program, because unless you're committed to rolling your sleeves up and actually doing the work, there's not a lot of point me wasting my breath telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Because I see that a lot, and that's why we're really picky about who we work with, because so many people come and complain about certain parts of their business, or they're wanting to start a business. But then when we're handing you all of the tools that you need to succeed, if you're not going to go and commit time and effort to changing those things that you're whinging about, I can't help you.
Yeah.
So you need to have a bit of initiative and a bit of get up and go and drive to actually want to change those things. Don't come to me just to whinge, because I'll push you.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. It comes up around business is not for the faint-hearted.
No.
It really isn't. And I think sometimes designers, they might come to it as a second or a third career and they're wanting flexibility or whatever their reason is for starting their own business. And I think they most really know it's going to be hard, but they might not fully appreciate how hard it's going to be. And I'm not saying this to scare people off. It is by far the most rewarding thing you will do. But
it hurts sometimes.
It really hurts. It's really hard. You've got to get up every single day and you've got to go, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing resilience, I'm choosing to step up every time. It's a hard slog.
I know. I remember, I joke about this all the time. I remember when I worked for other people, and there was one job in particular that I had a really awful boss, And it's the people that make jobs.
Mm.
You know, it's the reason why people stay in jobs is for the other people that they're surrounded by. And she made our lives hell, and we all hated it. And we all used to joke, and this is a horrible joke. We used to joke that on our way to work, that we kind of hoped that we'd have like a slight accident that wouldn't get us in hospital, but it was enough to kind of dent your car enough to not be able to get to work, so that you didn't have to go to work that day. And ever since I started my business and have been working for myself, I never once have ever woken up and been like, oh, I really don't want to do today. Like, I'd rather hit a guardrail than like, I just don't think about that anymore. No. And there's things that I do in a day that are really tough and really hard, and curveballs get thrown at you, and you don't make as much money, and then you've got bills to pay, and things happen that are awful. But for some reason, that just keeps driving me. So I don't know what's wrong with me.
Well, I think that's kind of the true entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? It's like I think one of the most important things that you can do is, and I think it's something you need to revisit often, is what does success mean for you? Because and what is your driver to get out of bed every day to work on this business and to grow this business and to make it successful for you? Because if you're not loving it, it's too hard. It's not something you can kind of do on the fly. And so I think, like, when I talk to designers, it's like, be really clear on what success is going to mean for you, because that's going to make it a lot easier to get through the days that are hard.
But also don't compare yourself to other people's success, because you don't know the intricate details of what their business looks like. And you might be comparing yourself to someone who's actually massively in debt. They might have the ATO breathing down their neck, but on the surface they look like it's all fun and amazing, and they're kicking incredible goals. And also everyone's version of success is so different. Like, I've got so many designers that have come through the doors with us that have said, I just want to be able to pick my kids up at 3:00 in the afternoon and switch off and do bed, bath and dinner and all of that, and not have to worry about, all of the other sides of business. And that's totally fine. That's their version of success. Exactly. That's not my version of success, but it doesn't make either of us wrong.
No, exactly. And I think as well, and this is why I say you need to revisit it often. So, like, I have small kids. So for me, the school pickup is important. I'm getting to the point where in a couple of years' time, that's not going to be as big of a driver for me. And so my view of success then is going to be different. And I think that also comes to, like, I totally agree. I think there is, not just in our industry, most industries, like Instagram is a highlights reel. There is so much smoke and mirrors. You never know what is going on behind someone's business. But I think as well, with something that I see some designers struggle with, and I suppose especially if you've got if you're a working mum or something, it's kind of like, well, success for me right now is this, which limits my business. And I'm like, it's not limiting your business. Like, this is the time to work on things so that when you have more capacity to take on more clients, you're ready to go, and you've got those systems and processes in place, and you've got the marketing in place, and you've been working on your SEO and all of those things kind of thing. I think there are seasons in your business. Some of those seasons will be smaller seasons. Some of them are going to be seasons of growth. So yeah, I think thinking about that, your business strategically over time, is so important.
Yeah, and understanding that there will be curveballs that get thrown at you. That means that you change. Like what I said to you at the start, when I first started the business, I just wanted extra pocket money. I can't survive off that pocket money now.
Yeah. That's the thing. What we need changes, kind of thing, like, the designer handbags become kind of more designer kind of thing. So, yeah. So you need a bit of extra pocket money.
Yeah, keep feeding that beast.
Exactly. So tell me, what are you looking forward to in the next 12 months with your business?
We're about to have some major changes.
Yeah.
So I don't sit still for very long. I finished writing my 3rd decorating book last year. That comes out. I don't know if you've ever had anything to do with book writing, but that process is not a short process.
Yeah.
So
that is the one consistent thing that I hear from people who do books. I'm like, Yeah, it's a long, 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 long process.
It is. So I finished the manuscript in December last year. This year is very much illustration, front cover, layout of the book, graphics, all of that. And then we go to print, I think, towards the end of this year. And then that comes out in April. So I'll go on a book tour and do all of that. But in preparation for the book to come out, it's kind of got to a point where the business is beyond Emma Bloomfield Studio. It's needing to evolve. So, and there's so many other people in the team. It's not just about me. And I really want the girls to be able to step up and shine in their roles as well. And I don't want them to feel as though just because it's my name on the door, they've got to sit back and, let that be the case. That's not fair. They have careers as well. So we're about to change all of our branding. So I'm splitting the business into 4.
Wow.
So it's a big process. That'll happen in September. So we're going from Emma Bloomfield Studio to EB Studio. So that will be all of the design services that we offer. Then Emma Bloomfield will become where it's more of a personal brand. So all of the books will be there, all of the workshops that I host, that sort of thing. Then we'll have an e-com site as well. So that's all. I've actually got some samples sitting on my desk that I need to look at. They've just arrived. That's exciting. And then I have the education piece as well. So all of the mentoring programs, the resources that we give to designers that I work with on that will be available for other designers to log in and download as well. So there'll be some free and paid resources to help designers run their businesses in a better way. So that's going to keep me busy for a while.
Yeah. Like I've just had some new branding done, and that's like a fraction of what you're just talking about. And even that
times 4.
Yeah, exactly. I remember like when it all landed, and I was so excited, and then I was like, holy, like just becoming completely overwhelmed. But I was like, okay, let's just take one small bite of this elephant and we'll get there, kind of thing. But it is amazing how much work that is. Like I think that's another thing, people underestimate how much work something like that will be.
Yeah, and last year when I wrote the book, I dedicated Thursdays to book writing because I knew that if I didn't, and I don't know if anyone knows this, but with a book deadline, there's no moving that. Like I could have had to have my appendix out 3 weeks earlier and they still would have been like, yeah, cool, your book's still due. And so I knew that I had that hard deadline. And so I dedicated Thursdays. And because I'd done 9 months of dedicating Thursdays, after the book was done, I kind of was like, I still get heaps less emails on a Thursday. I'm just going to roll with this. So my Thursdays now are dedicated to big business. So that's all marketing, website rewriting, anything to do with business happens on a Thursday. And I really underestimated how much time I was going to need to rewrite all the pages for the website because we've got 13 years of content on the site, and that's because we're going from emmabloomfield.com to ebstudio.com. I can't lose the SEO that we've got from Emma Bloomfield, so there's this whole other thing happening with my web developer that she's working on. I've made it her problem because I don't understand it. And how we keep all of the SEO from that to carry across, and we've got a whole plan in place to execute that, but that's got nothing to do with design, but it's been a huge portion of what I do.
Yeah, definitely. But yes, I think everyone does underestimate how long that stuff takes. But I also think that actually really love that you kept that day, because quite often I think when people don't allocate a day to it or even a half day, you kind of got to get in the headspace for it. And a lot of this stuff is like I don't know about you, but I can imagine that the decision to kind of split the business in 4, it's taken you a while to kind of map that out, and how does that actually work, and how does that look, and what are the implications for that, and like it's not a decision that you can kind of make quickly on the fly or over a 20-minute coffee. Like you got to take time for that, and I think not enough designers do that. Like they don't allocate in their day or their week or in their week 4 hours of business strategy.
Yeah, and having that day, some of the girls don't work Thursday, so it also is easier for me to do that because I can be in the office without distractions. And everyone knows, like it's in my email signature. I don't work in the office, or I say I don't work in the office, but I'm in the office by myself. And everyone's respected it. It's really interesting how me putting my foot down, and I think it was great that it started off as book writing because they understood that there was a project and it wasn't like, hey, I'm just having Thursdays off because I don't really want to work Thursdays. It wasn't like that. And so everyone's really respected it. And I know a lot of other business owners that are like, that's awesome. They don't work in the design industry, but they're like, I'm stealing that. They're putting it on their calendars and their email signatures that they don't work on Thursdays or whatever day that they're choosing. And it's been a game changer for me.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, like, it comes up a little bit with designers when maybe they kind of go, if you send, like, say, a Calendly link to a client and it's like, these are the times I can do these meetings. And they're like, well, no, like, I've got to be available all the time. And I'm like, no, it's your business. You set boundaries. Like, if you don't set boundaries, then people are going to push back on that kind of thing. So I think that's a real thing. Like, it's a bit of a mind shift, I think, sometimes as a business owner,
I think
your time is precious.
Yeah. But you worry that you putting your foot down means the client's going to walk away. And I think they respect you for having boundaries. So I thought about it from the perspective of surgeons. They have surgery days and then they have office days.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm not surgery. But I was like, do you know what? This whole driving all across Sydney 5 days a week is meaning that I'm just getting nothing done because I'm in the car. And so we decided that Tuesdays and Wednesdays would be our consulting days. And we have a bookable calendar link on the website. And then anyone that inquires with us and wants to go ahead with a consultation gets sent the link. And they get to choose the times that are available. But that's heavily curated behind the scenes from us in terms of how many places do we want to go in a day? What parts of Sydney do we want to be going to? You don't want to be in Cronulla at 10 o'clock in the morning and then have to hot-foot it to St Ives that afternoon. So we're really careful about how we schedule things, and being able to do that has given us so much more freedom and flexibility with getting the work done.
Yeah.
We're not sitting in the car driving across Sydney every single day of the week. It's like, okay, great. We know Mondays in the office, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, we could be called out to different things. Thursdays, no one speak to Emma at all. And then Fridays are work from home days. So the girls just put their heads down and get the work done. Yeah. And that's, you know, we don't always follow it, but when we do, it works really well for us.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I think that's evidence of a very well-oiled machine, but it's also evidence of years of experience. Like, it takes time to get to that point. The other thing that I would love to quiz you on a little bit is that decision. I think it's a really interesting take on the fact that you're moving from Emma Blomfield to EB and how that reflects. I mean, big change.
But massive.
In a way, I think that's quite a unique perspective in the industry, because a lot of designers, and there's nothing wrong with it, they put their name on the door. And it's really interesting. When I started my design studio, I had worked for 2 designers that had their name on the door, and I was like, I never want to put my name on the door ever, because for multiple reasons. I think that's a really interesting perspective that you've kind of reflected on, and it's like it's not just you. You are obviously the figurehead of the business across multiple platforms, but you want to showcase your team as well. How did you get to that point?
Again, necessity. We work on 80 to 90 projects a year. They vary significantly in size. Some of them are just decorating one room in a house. Others are full-scale, massive commercial projects. I can't be across 80 to 90 projects and run and lead every single one of those projects. I tried for a very long time and I failed. Yeah. And I don't want to be the one that lets the team down. Yeah. And I have employed staff who have incredible skill sets, and I've employed staff who have better skills than I do, because there's definitely areas of the business that I don't do well at.
Yeah.
And there's no point me trying to pretend that I do. So it's no longer about me. We create incredible spaces and incredible homes and incredible offices, restaurants, hospitality venues, whatever it is. And it needed to be bigger than just Emma Blomfield. And I also have interests in other things. Like I've got the book writing, I've got the speaking gigs, I've got workshops that I run, and then I also have the mentoring and education side of things. And if I want to be able to jump in and do other bits and pieces within the business, then I can't be trying to pretend that I'm in front of 80 clients a year. And also I think it means that when you come to the About page on our website before you engage us, you see very clearly who is on the team. And then it's, if, you know, such and such has to go to this meeting and such has to go to that meeting, there's no like shock factor for the client when someone else turns up that's not me. Everyone joked for a long time, you should just hire everyone whose name is Emma. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. We can't have 6 Emmas in the business. And so, it kind of just got to a point where it was like, well, we don't really have a choice. And I can't pretend that I do everything forevermore, because that's just not the case.
Yeah, look, I think it's a very mature business mindset, to be frank. I think there's a lot of designers who could learn a lot from that, because I think sometimes people think it's a weakness or something, where I'm kind of like, if you can highlight how amazing your team is, it just actually makes your business stronger. Like it just presents you as a more professional business. Like it's a real selling point, I think, kind of thing. And
then you're not hiding anything.
Yeah.
Like the girls go and do meetings without me anyway. So yeah, it's a no-brainer from my perspective.
Yeah. That's awesome. Emma, I have so enjoyed our chat. It's been great. It's been great to get a little insight into the world of Emma Blomfield. It really is a world.
That's actually the joke now. It's with all of the changes happening in the 4 different sites, we have to have a global site for it. And so the joke is that it's EB World.
It really is. That's awesome. It's very, very cool. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.